Hey guys, Nick here. I'm going to go ahead and just state the obvious. This is a marketing tool for my real estate business. I've been a realtor for 20 years right here in Nashville. But who wants to listen to a boring podcast about real estate? Good news, it's not. This is a podcast about people that I've built relationships with since I moved here in 1988. If what I stand for resonates with you and you're looking to buy or sell a home in this area, let's talk. No pressure, just a conversation, kind of like this podcast.
This is the 615 Podcast with your host, veteran realtor and entrepreneur, Nick Woodard.
All right, guys, today's guest is another longtime friend and fellow native of Brentwood, Franklin area. We graduated together in the Brentwood High School class of 1999. He is the CEO of one of the most popular and well-known automotive customization shops in all of Nashville. I'm happy to introduce my friend Philip Lindsley from Titans Motoring.
What's going on, guys?
Welcome, brother.
Thanks, man.
Glad to have you. So you can explain a little bit more than I can about what you do. We'll get into the how it happened and all that, but tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. So the current day business is we do just about everything custom automotive. So we do everything from audio, which is where I got my start, which we'll talk a little bit about. But we do everything from lifts, wheels, tires, wraps, window tint, upholstery. We do custom fabrication. There's really not a whole lot that we don't do, to be honest.
Well, say you're kind of known around town for your custom fabrications and all that stuff. Like you've got some celebrities and that type. Anybody you can kind of tell us? Sure.
I mean, obviously, we do a lot of the Titan football players. Big Jeff Simmons is one of my real good clients.
Okay, awesome.
I was real happy when he signed that very large contract. Knew he wasn't going anywhere. We immediately did a pretty big job for him right after that. But yeah, a lot of the Predators, hockey players, Titan football players. But we're getting NFL players from all over the country now. Just did Tyree Phillips plays for I think Baltimore Ravens. It's friends with one of the Titans, so that's kind of how we got connected. A lot of country music stars, did Keith Urban's truck. So yeah, I mean, a lot of songwriters. Obviously, it's a big songwriter town, so we get a lot of songwriters that have wrote all the songs. You might not know who they are, but you know the songs that they've written. So we
just had Kelly Lovelace in here earlier.
Yeah,
who wrote "Try That in a Small Town," so know them well.
Yeah. So, and then a lot of, I'm doing a lot of promotions at Brentwood High. So we're just doing everyday students, adding CarPlay radios. But yeah, so got some famous people in there.
We're going to talk about that. Your start at Brentwood High.
Yeah.
Because that's where it all started, brother. We knew damn well what you were going to do for a living.
Yeah.
What are some of the craziest customizations you've done? Anything just wild?
Well, I mean, like we just, one of the things I just did for Jeff Simmons is many of you guys might seen his big blue truck. It was all over the Titans, Instagram, social media stuff. So we did that whole truck build for him. We just delivered, this week, actually, his fishing boat that matches the truck.
Fantastic.
So, he calls me and he says, hey, should I get a new boat or should I pimp this one out? Well, of course, you know what my answer is going to be. He knew what my answer was before he called me.
Where it's like, Nick, should we renovate or buy? No, you need to buy a new house.
So he knew what the answer was. But anyway, so we did that. That was cool. Made the trailer match the suspension and wrapped the boat to match the truck. So pretty cool. Kind of a funky project that we've got going on right now that we're still in the kind of engineering and design stages, and don't know if I should have took this project on, but I did for a friend of mine. We are going to be putting a Hayabusa powertrain in a old 60s Italian Fiat.
Okay.
So we're building a frame for it, a whole thing. Actually, don't know if we're going to do a Hayabusa motor. That was the original plan, but we might do like a little Subaru 2.0 turbo motors. Anyway, it's going to be power to weight ratio, whatever we decide is going to be. Absolutely ridiculous. So that's a funky one. We do a lot of obviously like LS and Coyote motors and Broncos and things like that. We do a lot of that stuff. So yeah, done some diesels and some classic Broncos, which is kind of cool. Right now we're putting a Godzilla motor in an old classic Thunderbird, which is a Ford motor, 7.3 liter. So yeah, I mean, a lot of funky stuff.
A lot of funky stuff. Well, I mean, of course I wanted to have you on to help promote your business and do all that, but most importantly, I wanted to have you on to tell your story. You've had great success as a young guy, and then things didn't go so well, and then you kind of turned it back around. So kind of give us the breakdown of how things started and where it went from there.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, everybody kind of knew what I was going to be doing. I mean, I was the guy in high school.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Stereos
Yeah,
in.
you're putting everybody's, subs and amps.
Yeah,
and
wiring up subs in the parking lot, at Brentwood. So I basically, I did all that through high school, worked at car stereo shops all through high school. Left early senior year. We all could get jobs our senior year and leave early. So did that at a car stereo shop. And then I went to MTSU, started my first business while I was at MTSU. It was called Auto House.
We were there at the same time.
Yeah, and it kind of grew pretty quickly and started making money, and I liked money more than I liked school. So I stopped going to MTSU. I only went there for about a year and a half and had my first business and really rocked it, man. We were doing really good. And grew it to pretty big. We were downtown in about a 30,000 square foot building. I was probably mid 20s at that point. And man, we were rocking. And then the 08, 09 kind of collapse hit, and I was not ready. I couldn't tell me anything. I needed a little bit of humble pie, I guess, and I got a big heaping helping of it. So I closed that business in early 09 and took a little kind of sabbatical from the car world for about a year and a half.
You into tech or something like that?
I did some work with my brother's software company. He was kind of around that time was when online poker was really starting to gain some traction, and so he had a software company developing some back end stuff for poker and online gambling sites. And so I helped him with that. Learned a lot about software and SEO and a lot of website stuff that I've been able to integrate in my business today, but hated it. I did not like it at all, but definitely learned some things.
It's not your natural gift.
It's not, and it wasn't my natural habitat. And so I took what I needed from it, and then was like, I think it's time for me to get back into what I want to do. And so I started Titan actually out of a van. So basically, when I stopped working for my brother, I got a minivan, I put a box of tools in it, and I started doing work for car dealerships around
back to the old Brentwood High School days.
Yeah, and it was just me. It was me in a van down by the river, and so I started doing that. I got the CarMax account.
I was going to ask you about the CarMax. Was that your big?
That was my big kind of springboard.
Yeah.
And they had a couple locations here in Nashville. Started giving me a lot of business. So I ended up hiring a guy and getting a van, and it sort of kind of expedited our growth pretty rapidly. Got a little shop. A lot of people that are from here to know that there was actually went to high school with them, but the Hansons had a Jeep dealership. It was down on Charlotte Avenue. So when I had a few vans and they were parked at my house at that point, I was like, I need to get at least like a hub for the vans. So I'm not parking all this at my house. So that Hanson dealership was empty at that point. They had sold it or I don't know what happened to it. So I ended up renting the back of that Jeep dealership for my first kind of shop, if you will. It was their old detail building. It was, it wasn't nice, but at least it wasn't my house,
Yeah, exactly.
And so and I was still doing work for some football players. I used to work for Chris Johnson that played for the Titans for a long time. Whole time he was here, even when I worked for my brother, I was still doing work for him. Yeah. I was his car guy basically. So I remember one day I was in that shop, and keep in mind it was a detail like wash bay. So there was this huge like sewer drain in the middle, all the water would like drain into, and at any given time there would just be this terrible odor that would like come out of this big sewer drain. So I'm in there talking to Chris Johnson, and he's
great for the customer experience.
Right.
Yeah.
It was great. So I'm in there talking to Chris Johnson, and and he didn't care. It was whatever. Sure. But I'm in there talking to him about like, I don't know, putting like $10,000 wheels on his brand new Bentley or something, and like this big like waft of this.
We could use him back though. By the way, we could use him back.
We sure could. So this big waft of air comes up, like hits us in the face, and I was like, I think it's time for me to get an actual shop. So our first shop was over Berry Hill. It was about 3,500 square feet. We work on about 5-6 cars, but it had a little showroom and little offices and stuff like that. So that was in 2013. We were there for a little under 2 years, and we moved to our current shop that's over off the interstate, off of Harding and 65. And we were only in the bottom of that building initially. Building's about 15,000 square feet. Bottom is about 7 of that. And we just had a sign up top And so you had to like drive around to the back, which, it was a much nicer shop. It was plenty of space, but there's nothing more sketchy than when a client calls and says, "Hey, I'm at your building." And you say, "Yeah, just drive around back. We'll get you around back." It sounded real sketchy. So anyway, we ended up getting the top, after we had been there for about a year and did our big showroom and stuff that we currently have. And, we absolutely love it, man.
That's awesome. I've read an article about you talking about there was a mentor you had that kind of pulled you when things weren't going very well and turned it around. So what can you say having a strong mentor going from, okay, a business that was successful, that you didn't completely run it properly, to now, what have you learned that's different that you do now compared to then, having learned those lessons and having that mentor leadership?
Sure. Well, I do things completely differently. I mean, again, I was in my 20s. I was cocky. I thought I knew it all, and then I lost it all. Right. So now it's very different. I mean, I highly recommend mentors. And what that really is about is saying, hey, I don't know everything. I might not be the smartest in this area or that area. And started relying and leaning on those people. One of my mentors is John Schwartz. He owns Perfectionist Auto Sound up in Alaska. He's probably in his mid 50s now, but he's been in business for over 30 years. And has a smaller shop than mine, but it's very profitable for how many people he has. And so, it's about, hey, I've got this problem. Have you ever had it? What solutions?
I'm sure the technology has changed astronomically over the past handful of years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But just having somebody that potentially has been through something that you might be going through currently, and say, hey, I tried this, it didn't work. I did this and it did. It can help you from making mistakes. Or, I mean, obviously I made a lot of very costly mistakes in my first business. And when, kind of everything hit the fan back in 08, 09, I was not prepared to deal with that. So
how exactly, what do you mean by you weren't prepared for it? So things are going well, you're not preparing for when things don't go well? Just everything's going to just continue this path and everybody's happy and it's great and money's always coming in. And
yeah, I mean, I think my biggest thing was I was spending money as fast as we were making it. So you got to, you have to put away, plan for a rainy day, plan for an election year, play for a downturn. I don't know that anybody could plan for a COVID, but things like that, right? Things that are unexpected that you have to still plan for that type of stuff as much as you can. And I wasn't planning for anything. I was like, oh, we made $5,000 a day. Cool. I'm going to spend 45 of it, 4,500 of it. And, had tons of cars, all this stuff. I was just blown as fast as I could make it. And, even more on the business side, there was no processes and procedures in place. And ramping up a new employee took a lot of work, and there was just a lot of things, and a lot of the stuff that we do now, I'd say, 75% of the things that I do now differently were from a mentor. They're from somebody saying, you need to do this, or I made this mistake and now I do this. That's what I learned. I'd say the majority of that is from mentors.
So I kind of set you up with that question going, okay, now for the humble brag, like, you were at the lows, you got a mentor, and now you're not just successful. Like, y'all have won a lot of awards. Like, you have how many employees do you have? Like,
we hover around 30, between 30 and 35. So one of the things that also having a mentor did is I was always kind of in our bubble here, right? So when you're in your little bubble and you're not looking at, whatever industry you can be in, you're not looking at shops that are, or businesses like yours that are in other markets, other areas, is you're like, man, I got it going on. Like I'm the best in this area. Well, we got plugged into the Mobile Electronics Association, and they have these events. There's actually one going on in Vegas this weekend that several of my guys are at. But what that is shops like ours that are all over the country, and they all come together to learn, to grow. They do give awards. They do all kinds of different trainings. And when I went to that, which I think the first one was back in like 16 or 17, it made me realize that's where I met John Schwartz and all these other shop owners. It made me realize like there is a much a higher level that I could go to. Whether you're at the highest level in your market or not, there's another level you can go, and you don't know that until you start surrounding yourself with like-minded people that are maybe in other markets. So, we have our showroom now is, super nice. It's not like a car repair shop. Like, it's very comfortable and very high end. We don't have product everywhere. And all of that came from me looking at these other high-end shops, showrooms, and like, I want to be like that, right? So if I hadn't been plugged into that Mobile Electronics Association, I wouldn't have known that there was another level to go to.
Of course.
And we've gotten Retail of the Year for the last several years from them, which is a big deal. We've won it twice in the last couple of years, amongst a bunch of other awards from them. But
that's awesome, man.
My crew that I've got now, and a lot of them I've met at these events. We've got people that we've moved here and relocated from other areas of the country. We met them through these events also. So, going around to stuff all over the country for your industry, whatever it is, it can put you around not just potential mentors, but potential employee, different employee pool, that you might not have in there you currently are.
Right.
I think we've got 7 or 8 employees that are from other states at this point. And those were all met through by going to those events and taking the time and spending the money to travel and go around to some of these events to learn and get better.
Well, and to kind of shift in another direction, like myself, you're a conservative-minded business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily over political, which I'm not, but like myself, you're not afraid to let people know your beliefs and your feelings and where you stand on things. Have you seen that affect your business positively or negatively?
Sure. So, and I was always neutral. I was just kind of don't care. I got more important things I need to focus on. But as I got into my 30s, had a small business, and started really seeing that these things affected me as a small business owner and affected my employees and taxes and cost of doing business. I started caring a little bit more when I started stroking those tax checks. And then, over the last 8 to 12 years, I've really become, a little bit more polarized, I guess you would say, because things I just thought Washington was just messed up. I thought that we can't keep doing more of the same. That would have been like me in my 20s, just I'm going to do more of the same. I'd have been right out of business again. And, I always felt like this country needed to be run like a business. I mean, that's what it should be run as.
So do you feel like it's affected your business at all? Or is it like for me personally, no, I'm not brash about it, but when people see my stuff, my Instagram, my Facebook, all the things, they know what they're getting.
Yeah.
So, and it's been a overly positive thing for me.
Yeah.
Because people tend to gravitate towards, people that think the same way.
Sure. And I would agree that it's definitely had a positive impact. Could there have been a potential customer loss that I don't even know about? Maybe. But I've constantly been reminded from clients that have come in that they were doing business because of, they feel like they want to support somebody that's like-minded.
Good stuff, man. Well, let's get to, we both grew up in Brentwood before it became Brentwood. When, we were back out in the country, Cool Springs wasn't here. I grew up on Wilson Pike, which is where you currently live now. Think back to the early mid 90s. You got any great stories about the area that you remember that you can tell?
Well, I can tell you one, about me personally that some might not know.
Let's do it.
And I didn't get into a little bit on my personal story on kind of some personal struggles I've had. I mean, when I was at MTSU, I actually got arrested when I was at MTSU and did a little bit of jail time. Really helped me kind of realize I didn't want to live like that, and really kind of put my focus on my business, my first business. So I didn't really talk about that before in that earlier story. But interesting story that a lot of people might not know. Some people do. So back in 1994, I had a car already. I was only 14, but I had a car with a car payment that I made. Convinced my dad to get it, and I made a payment on it, but it had to sit in my driveway.
Okay.
Well, one night we were, messing around, some of us, and some of it, one of my buddies got in an argument with somebody else on the phone, and I thought it was a great idea that I was going to drive him over to this guy, and we were going to fight this guy. So we got in the car and drove over there. And there was a fight, and we left, and I proceeded to run my car up a telephone pole, the guide wire to a telephone pole.
At 14 years old.
And there was a whole thing. There was police dogs that were sent out. We ran, left the car. So side story is I get pulled over in Brentwood probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was an undercover Charger, and this old white-haired Brentwood cop gets out, and I was like, man, I recognize him. So he comes up to my car, I roll my window down, and he looks at it. So keep in mind, we're talking, let's see, 94. We're talking 30 years later, right? Or almost, give or take. So he rolls my way. He's like, I pulled you over. I was like, yeah, he's like, so I hand him my license, and he looks at my license, and he kind of pauses for a second, and he looks at me and he goes, did you run a car up a telephone pole back in 1994? I was like, yes, sir, I did. He's like, well, you look like you're doing all right. I said, yeah, I got it together. And he's like, all right, well, you get out of here.
That's fantastic.
So that was a funny story. So yeah, Cool Springs Mall wasn't there. That's another thing. It was Fields. Ronnie Allen used to live over there.
Yeah,
and
of course.
We used to run bikes through what is currently the mall, when it was a big field. We used to, down on the end of Wilson Pike, Rob Anderson still owns some property in Cheatham. They both own property down there.
I saw them both the other day.
And so we used to, go do mudding and tear up those properties down there.
I was telling some clients the other day, I've sold a couple homes in the Chardonnay neighborhood right down from you. Mm-hmm. I was telling the stories. I don't know if you remember this, but right where the 1-lane underpass is, instead of going under the underpass, it used to be a dirt road that just went straight up. And so we'd go up in there and we'd take the trucks and go mudding and drinking beer and, having a good time. And then when the cops would show up coming up that hill, we'd turn off the lights and go the back way, which is now Chardonnay, and just come in right behind them.
Yeah, and driving through the woods with no lights, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Very good idea.
That's a great
So in Cool Springs, yeah. So I grew up in Carriage Hills, right across from your current house now. And we were so far out in the country that we couldn't get pizza delivered.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'd order it, and we'd hop in the truck and go all the way to the other side, which would be at the corner of, Moores Lane and Franklin Road now, at the Pizza Nizza, if you remember that place.
Oh, yeah.
So, remember that well.
Well, and then, there was one grocery store in Brentwood. There was only Kroger, or maybe Piggly Wiggly. There was Piggly Wiggly, and then there was an H.G. Hills later. This is before the Publix and the Harris Teeters and all of that. But yeah, even that main stretch in Brentwood on Franklin Road, that whole where TJ Maxx and all that stuff is now. It was a quarter of the size it is. They blew the whole back of that out, and now there's all those other stores. But yeah, man, we've seen Brentwood. it's real similar in my opinion to what 10 years ago what Spring Hill was, and now Spring Hill, of course, is.
Spring Hill was it was literally here because of the Saturn plant.
Yep. And that was it. I remember coming to Spring Hill back, it would have been, early 2000s, and we wanted to get something to eat, and it was a gas station. There was not even a fast food restaurant. There was maybe one or two, but I drove through Spring Hill like a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like,
that's wild.
What is happening out here? It is definitely
the Poplar House. That was down here.
What was the Poplar House?
It was like I never even ate there, but it was always like a staple, But gas station fried chicken is the best you could do.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember Dodge's at MTSU?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about gas station fried chicken.
Yeah.
The pizza rolls.
I feel like they made more off fried chicken at that one than they made off gas.
Oh, yeah. They probably made all their money between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock a.m.
Yeah, that's right. And some of it was for me. I would have been there between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
So I always like to ask guests at the end is, okay, you grew up here. You live here, you raise your kids here. What do you love about our area, specifically Brentwood, Franklin, Williamson County?
So it's funny, when we were all here, we all couldn't wait to leave, right? So like our friend group, we all couldn't wait to get out of here. grass is always greener, right? And everybody left. And I did a little Atlanta stint, but everybody's back now, right? Like we all went elsewhere, and then everybody's like, "Oh, Brentwood's
pretty good.
bad."
It was pretty good.
Pretty good.
It's pretty great.
I mean, it's. I feel like it's still a small town-ish. People say that even about Nashville. Like it's kind of becoming a big city, but it still has that kind of small town vibe. And it's just a great place there's the weather's great. The properties are great. It's got low property taxes, all those things. And schools are phenomenal for the most part. And it's a great place to raise a family, and to plug into community. It's just, I haven't seen anywhere else like it, I guess.
Yeah. We love it. We absolutely love it. So, well, brother, you've had incredible success, and you've got so many of us that grew up with you that are just in your corner rooting for you, man. Just knowing your story of success to failure to success, but also knowing like we all knew what you were going to do. Like we all knew it. Like you were the guy that just was all about automotive and audio video and all that good stuff. So we knew that was going to happen for you, and we continue to wish you the best of luck. And
I appreciate that.
We always want people to leave here with a little bit of a thank you gift. So, producer,
nice.
Tim. That's you're 1 for 3 today.
That was a good
Nice.
That was a good throw.
You got your own little 615 hat. So
awesome.
we're going to put all your contact in the show notes, all your socials, your business website, all that good stuff. And guys, he's the best in the business at what he does. So if you're looking for any sort of fabrication, audio, video, all the stuff to just pimp your ride, he's the guy. So Bill, again, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me.
See you guys.